Okay, so you guys remember me showing you how to do this here with the strips of cardboard and then putting the plaster cloth on top, and then I painted it brown. Now it's not done yet, obviously, because it still needs all the greenery on it. However, I'm going to show you how I do something else very similar to this, but we're going to add rocks, rock faces, and it's going to be a lot higher, more of a mountain, if you will. Let's take a look. Okay, so depending on the type of terrain that you want to have on your layout, you're going to have to do a number of things. Now, for this area here, I knew right away that I wanted a mountainous background with a rock face, and then I'm going to do a lake down here. How do you even achieve that? Especially with the fact that my layout is still very modular. So when I undo the screws on the underside here, I have to be able to take this all apart. I'm going to show you how I did that. And I'm going to take you through a step-by-step of how I'm even remotely even trying to complete a thing like this. It's something that I've gotten a number of questions about, and I'm going to see if I can answer them to the best of my ability here. So we're going to do this in a step-by-step, just like I did with the last one. We obviously were working with a blank slate here. And as I go through, I'm going to be showing you, as I move along here, all the steps that are required in order to be able to achieve something like that. Plus, I'm going to do a few extra for you. So obviously you have your background, you already have your track down, and your cork, and the train works. It's already wired and everything, so it's good to go. Now you don't have to necessarily paint the ground brown yet, but in this area here, I had already done that a long time ago, so it's a whatever thing. Now you want to make sure that your backdrop, if that's your backdrop, then you want to make sure it's covered so that you're not getting any plaster or paint or anything like that on it. Or in this case here, I haven't added my backdrop yet, so it doesn't matter if I get anything on the back there. But at no point do you want to connect anything to this, because this has to be able to lift out. So next, you want to create forms like this here. So I have my back piece, kind of like in the last one, where I'm making my mountainous kind of look to it, where it's going to go up and down like rolling hills. Maybe it's going to be one elevation, you need it to be a certain height. That you can determine on your own, that's, per layout. And depending on how far out your track is, for example here, it's much closer to the backdrop. So I think I would want to go a lot lower down here, as opposed to here where I'm very far away. So I can go obviously a bit higher. Now with things like this here, this is where the module splits. So again, I put a piece here to basically separate that module from that module. I'm going to want to be able to put a knife right down in between those two pieces of foam to make sure that everything is separate. So at no point do I want to glue it to here and here, just to here. Same thing with gluing to the backdrop. You can glue it to this, just don't glue it to this. Next, you can create little shelves. Shelves where you put your rocks onto. If you have a little rock face and it's going to come down, like there's a little hill here or whatever, you can do that throughout. That's another option for you. I do like to create a bit of an angled up to it so that it'll swoop down. But I'm also going to put my cardboard mesh over top. So I'm going to try to get as close to the backdrop here, and I'm going to glue that along there. And then I'm going to do the same thing coming out this way and have it glued down to, like, in and around here. You want to make sure there's enough room between the track and the hill and whatnot, because you don't want the cars hitting and rubbing up against it. Depending on what kind of cars you run, if they're longer and if it's on a curve, that's all going to be determined by yourself. These are just the basics here. So you just want to cover in and around the rock, below, the side of it, And then above it too, you want to create somewhat of a land going down to the rock. Once again, this is the mesh part here. Now there's no real rocks in this area yet. I could add some, but I want to hold off on the rocks for a section here because I got quite a bit of rock down this way. Now, as you can see, there's a slit right down the middle here, and it's because I've got foam under this side and foam under this side, but that's where the module splits. It's where it ends on this one, and it's where it begins on this one here. So that will come apart. Don't want to attach them. So then the weaving, like I've showed you so many times before, it's pretty basic. You're just weaving your cardboard strips in and out. I use hot glue, keeps it very basic. And the cardboard also goes right up to this, right, without being attached to it. This can come out still. And then when I put my plaster cloth on it, it'll hold it nice and tight right there. Now I've got a few more shelves here. I've got some big rocks up top, little rocks down below. These were all cast for me by Brian, which is Model Railroader 11. Big shout out to him for helping me out with that. He had a whole bunch of different rocks that he did for me, and I'm just placing them in here, placing them along randomly. There are some that are doubles, but you won't be able to tell that they're doubles or whatever once you're done. So at this point here, you can see obviously that there's a lot of holes, a lot of, things like that in there. Along the bottom is kind of sketch because it is kind of rounded, so areas like that in there. So I'm gonna have to go in and fill these in after. Now, one of the big things is, how do I get the rocks to go through for a module? Well, there's my split there, and as you can see, I had broken the rock right down the middle. So it does give it a natural rock broken look, sort of. I mean, it will for sure when it's done, but here is where the module splits. So I can still paint it, still make it look like it's all, one piece, right? You can't really tell if you don't know it's there. I've got another one here. Can't really tell. And this side's already has the plaster cloth on it. So I did run out here, but I have more. And you can see where the plaster cloth ends here. That's for one module. So I still have to plaster cloth all of that. But after you plaster cloth it, and I'm going to show you here. So see, that's all plaster cloth. Got my big hill. Then it comes down here, trackside, and it kind of goes into this module here, which again, they're side by side, looks good. And the rocks kind of wrap around here. So what I have to do now, I have to go in with Sculpt-A-Mold, and I'm going to fill it in, not just in the front or up here. I'm going to do some on top too. I'm going to fill that in a bit to make it look more rock-esque, I guess you could say, so that it's not like hill, rock, drop. I'm going to make it more gradual. But using the Sculpt-A-Mold, I'll be able to achieve that. And also I'll be able to fill in areas like that and still make it look more rock face, if you will. Now I'm gonna finish this off with the plaster cloth, and then I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna show you how I'm doing the Sculpt-A-Mold, because I've never used it before personally, but it sounds like fun. Okay, so we have our Sculpt-A-Mold, and I like to keep a large bottle of water with me when I do this. As far as the mixing goes, it says, do 2 parts Sculpt-A-Mold and 1 part water and all that, but I free eye it or free ball it, and I keep usually take out containers, so I can use one of these when I'll put the Sculpt-A-Mold in here, and then I add a little bit of water at a time to basically, you don't want to put too much in because then it'll be all soupy. You want it to be somewhat thick. And then I use a paintbrush, but I use, the top end to mix it, and then I use the bottom end for applying it. And then, you know, once I apply it on there, I kind of brush it out just to kind of, you know, move it in or mark it in and whatnot. And unless it's like a bigger area, then I can use my finger to, you know, wipe it out like that and smooth it. It's nothing, I'm not doing anything fancy with it. I'm just filling in all the holes, you know, because obviously you'll get a spot like this where there's tons of holes and that all has to be filled in. So I would put like a large amount in here, and then I would kind of brush it out like this and brush down the cracks like that. And then that way it's all filled in. And then it ends up looking like this. Which I think is really neat. I think this is like the coolest thing I've ever used. I did a bunch along here as well, along the bottom, and obviously where all the rocks join each other, there's usually a line going down. So I'll put some going down the crack of it, but obviously you can see it stopped there because I still have to do, well, and then I did some there. So I have to kind of fill this little spot in here, come over here, fill this spot in, and then do all this and up in here and whatnot. And then I have to do all this. So I did the plaster cloth here, and it swoops down. You can't really see it unless you're standing back, and it drops down a little bit. So I put all the rocks in. That's all hot glued down. I did put hot glue there, and I'm gonna fill it in with the Sculptamold, and then I have to put Sculptamold all in here and cover it with my hand, make sure it's all, so there's no little holes and whatnot, and then it'll be done, and then I can paint it. Still gotta obviously fill all this in here and then do all the way down there, but I'm in no rush. I wanted to do this entire section first, this giant curve here, because it's a large section and there's a lot to it, and it's like I can't do this area without doing this area without doing this area, you know what I mean? And then continuing down. So at least this entire module here is going to be good, and I'll be able to paint it, scenic it, and then plaster as well. Plaster cloth is very important here, so I'll be able to do that as well. Really excited to get this done because I need a really good solid scene that looks finished, and I'm excited to do water as well because I'm still yet to do water. So well, I'll do the mixture here and I will apply it, and then I will show you afterwards how it looks completed. Okay, now all the Sculptamold is done. Let's take a look at the final, well, the final product here, basically, with the rocks. You still got that line there. That's where the modules separate. That's not a, you know, not a deal breaker, because like, look, that can be hidden. Easy, 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 easy. Everything else is basically filled in. I don't think I missed any spots. I even did more on the top of them. Again, that's where the module separates, and it continues right across the top there as well, but that'll all be covered in. Did this entire rock face here. And, of course, as well, right along the water here. Exciting stuff. Probably have it where there's like a car that comes down and puts like the boat into the water there, like a little docking station. I don't know, something like that, something fun, create a little scene. But for the most part, like I covered all this here. They say if you're going to use the water, the fake water or whatever it's called, to make sure it doesn't touch the foam because it might eat away at the foam, but also because the plaster cloth had little holes, I want to make sure that it was solid right across here. Now, it's not super smooth like, you know, I was hoping it would be, but a little bit of texture never hurt anybody. And also, it's all going to get covered. Like, I'm going to paint it certain depths, And then once it has the water, which is going to be, you know, somewhat thick on there, it'll be okay. I'm pretty happy with it. It's my first time doing this here, and also first time working with Sculptamold. So, I mean, I don't really have high expectations, but with the fact that it turned out, for me, what I think it turned out really well. So, I'm going to keep going. I've got lots here to do. I have to continue that down there as well. So, whew, I got my work cut out for me. But I'm going to color my rocks, and I'm going to paint whatever brown that I need to paint brown and all that. And I'm going to get into the finer detail stuff. And you might start seeing some green real soon. But until then, this is just my outline tutorial of how I did my, you know, from the cardboard strips to the plaster cloth, adding rock walls, and then Sculptamold. So I hope you really enjoyed this little bit here. I have another video where I did my rock painting. You can always reference that. It's in my how-to video playlist, so you can always check that out. But yeah. So we'll see you around. Thanks for watching. And next time, who knows, I might have a review for you. I know we've got our GVO After Dark, dare I say, number 13, Unlucky 13, who knows, but I've just been calling it GVO After Dark just for this next episode because I'm a little superstitious like that. Just same way they don't have a 13th floor on some buildings. Either way. But yeah, so enjoy, and we'll see you around.